New Muerto Times just dropped, and it is the biggest patch this game has ever seen by far. So let's get into it. Let's go over the details. My apologies, by the way, for a little bit of a break there. I was busy with wrestling and then, playing other games like RoboCop Rogue City. Great game, by the way. So let's go over it. First thing is, it says over 250 fixes in testing. Fingers crossed that some of these will be perk fixes and things like that, because that is not listed here. I'll spoil it for you right away. The only thing it says is under investigation is perk rebalancing and issues with perks and abilities under needs more info. So hopefully this will include fixes to some of those perks like overlooked that just flat out don't work. So the first fix is Grandpa cutscene missing. Grandpa Awakened cutscene has been replaced with a simple banner notification. This is awesome. Hopefully this will let the game flow a little better, and more importantly, it will stop the issues with Leatherface's chainsaw overheating when that cutscene plays. So it's awesome they were able to get that figured out. With the way they were talking about it, I was a little concerned that this was going to take a long time and possibly never happen, because they were talking about how the cutscene was like really embedded deep into the game's code or something, where it seemed like it was going to be very difficult to make any changes. So I'm glad it's actually happening, and fairly early too. Grandpa perks up. Grandpa perks unequipping match to match is a fix in testing, so hopefully we'll get to the point where that'll stop happening. That's obviously a really common issue, and just a really nice quality of life thing, because is it a huge deal? No, but it is really annoying to have people's perks get unequipped, and you load into matches and people don't have perks on. And I understand there's this whole thing with not bringing Grandpa perks intentionally at this point, but still, it's a nice fix. Local fuse box saboteur in town. Saboteur perk now accurately affects the fuse box as well as the generator. This is really good because after the last fuse box change that allows the family to shut it off, that has made Saboteur much more valuable. And if it doesn't work on the fuse box, then it's a useless perk. So, and also, can I just say how funny it is that I had people criticizing where I ranked Saboteur, and some people like, yeah, man, it's S tier, and the thing never even worked. So it's like, evidently you're a fool. But now it works. So that's a good thing, and we need it to work after that last change. Family exploits valve ability used to instantly that's weird English, to instantly exploit the valve closing mechanic is being addressed. So essentially what family members could do is they could use like a button combination. I won't explain how it's done, but they could use an exploit that would allow them to instantly shut off the valve. And it's a good thing they fixed this, because I was concerned they might do one or the other. It's more important that the exploit gets fixed versus balancing something. But I was worried that they would like fix or change the pressure tank and then not fix that exploit. So then the pressure tank would just become a completely irrelevant means of escape. So thankfully they're doing both at the same time. So that's really good. Johnny Trail goes cold. Fix and testing for a bug that made the footprints disappear for Johnny almost instantly. I've never ran into this, and I've played a lot of Johnny, but once again, great fix. If that's a thing, then I'm glad to see it's getting fixed, because that sounds really annoying. 5 out of 7 victims agree. If a full lobby has 5 out of 7 victims ready, the match timer drops to 30 seconds. That's probably a good thing. I don't know. At this point, I don't know anymore, because it seems like every time they make a change to the lobby timer, it goes poorly. So I'm not even going to comment on this one. We'll have to wait and see if this winds up being good or bad, because there's a lot of things that you can't really predict or foresee when they make these lobby timer changes, where you're like, oh, they did this or that, and now this is going to happen, and you're going to load into matches, or lobbies are going to break, whatever. So I seems good on the surface, but we'll see. Trail of blood. Oh, this is great. The blood trails left behind by victims will now match the console version on PC as well. So if you've never seen this, if you look at the console versions of this game, when victims get attacked, they leave this huge, like, trail of blood that's really noticeable and is very helpful for tracking. But on PC, it's these tiny little, barely noticeable, like, splots of blood. And it's just weird that it's so different because, like, PC family members have a huge advantage over, or excuse me, console family members have a huge advantage over PC family members because of that, and not anymore. And it just looks better too. So this is good. Security pin lockdown. Security pins perk now only affects the cook's lock, so this is just a flat nerf to cook. Probably a bug, I would imagine. Like, technically a nerf, but probably a bug fix, because I always thought that that was strange with cook, because in the description of the perk, and at no point does it indicate that the normal lock will also be more difficult to pick. It's supposed to just be the padlock. So it was weird that it did both, and that seemed really strong. So, bug or not, it is a nerf to cook. So, cook got a couple of nerfs here. Is that a good thing? Probably. He was a little too oppressive. Building up pressure. We got to talk about this one. Turning off the valve will now repressurize the tank. I need more information on that. I'm sure they'll provide it 5 seconds after I post this video. Some dev will comment on what this means. But I'm concerned about this because when it says repressurize, what does that mean? Now, the way that what it should mean is when they turn it off, it will start to regress over time, right? That's what it should mean. This makes it sound like it goes back to 0 instantly. That's not good. if that's the case, it's already going to make pressure tanks in general a much less viable option just by having it regress, in my opinion. If it regressed like really slowly, so there was at least some punishment for the, because to me the idea is supposed to be, as a family member, you're supposed to stop them from ever getting to it in the first place. Like, to me, the game is supposed to be figure out where the valves themselves have spawned, and then when one is gone, you communicate with the family and be like, hey, somebody has pressure valve, we need to go check the tank, and stop them from getting the pressure valve on there. But I'm fine with it regressing really, really slowly because, you can make the argument like, it stinks that if it doesn't regress, victims could just come over and, backstab you. And if they're well organized, an Ana can backstab you and a Leland can shoulder check you and turn the thing right back on before you can even get out of your stun animation. And then, because it doesn't regress, they do that, 3 times and they're out. So it regressing really slowly is a good thing, I think. If it regresses at the same pace that it builds up, I think that's too strong. And if it completely resets to 0, that is a complete horror show, because that makes pressure tank irrelevant. No one will ever use it if that's the case. It'll completely nullify that as an exit option. So I hope it is that it slowly regresses as you after you turn it off. That's what I'm hoping, but I'm sure we'll get more clarification on that. Slaughterhouse renovations, a particularly tricky valve tank, will be relocated upstairs for better visibility. This is a good thing, I think. It's just it's a weird inconsistency, I think, that the valve tank was ever in the basement to begin with, while the other 2 maps had it upstairs. It's kind of a strange thing. I understand the idea of being like, well, each map has its own strengths and weaknesses. Like Slaughterhouse, the valve tank's really easy to get. Gas station's a little more balanced, and then Family House is almost impossible to get the water valve. But it just seemed a little too strong, so I think this is a positive thing. Smokehouse closed for business. The smokehouse door in the gas station map is being reworked. I'm glad it says the word reworked, because the initial headline saying closed for business makes it sound like they're just going to close that door and that's it. Hopefully the word reworked means they are going to just completely change like where that door is or possibly where the generator is. Because if they close that door and do nothing else, that's bad. That's not a good decision because the map is already very easy to defend as family when it comes to those 4 exits. In terms of the 4 gates, the 2 that lead to the generator and the 2 that lead to the car battery. And now that it's less of an issue protecting water tank on that map, that makes it even easier right there. So if you just close that, it makes that exit completely worthless. No one will ever go for it because that is the most difficult generator to turn off in the entire game because it's right next to a high traffic area. Turning off a generator is really loud. The family can take 5 steps to get to you. It's just, hopefully it means that it's being, the location is being changed and it's being made more difficult, but not just shut off and nothing else. Cook ability tuning. Crouch walking will now hide you from Cook's seek ability. The duration of outlines due to detection have been fixed. This is very interesting. This is a big nerf to him. It just is. It's a big nerf. I don't think this is a bug fix or anything. This is just a straight nerf, which is very rare for family. And it'll really be interesting to see if, crouch sprinting, it also makes it so you can't be detected. This says crouch walking, so I would assume not. That if you're holding shift while you're crouched, you're gonna get detected. But we'll see. Either way, it's a pretty big nerf to him. If you could crouch sprint, huge nerf to Cook. So we'll see how that goes. Tourniquet perk is being fixed and will no longer completely remove bleed out effects. I didn't even know that was a thing, to be completely honest, but good. Auto crouch toggle. Oh god, thank you. Testing out a toggle for the auto crouch so players could turn it off. This is so annoying if you ever played Victim. Like, you have auto crouch, so like, you'll be in the middle of a chase and you'll stop running for a second and you'll crouch and it can get you killed. I will immediately turn off auto crouch if this becomes an option. So that's awesome. No cell versus chainsaw. No cell will now accurately affect overhead chainsaw attacks from Leatherface. I believe what this means is that it will make it so that it accurately prevents damage. Because I think there was some issue, if I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong, whereas overhead attack would just like ignore no cell and would just do full damage and kill you. So this is a good thing. This is another good change. And then it says and more. And then obviously under the bottom here we have under investigation grappling tuning. I don't know what they mean by that. What needs to be tuned about grappling? That'll be interesting to see, because I think there's arguments from both sides. I think there's arguments that like you can grapple, like grappling is too strong of a mechanic for the victims, but they can just run up to a family member, grapple, and get out of it. At the same time, I think on the other side of that, there's an argument to be made that that animation is way too long. Because there are times, like especially Johnny's animation, when you win that grapple, the animation lasts like 5 seconds longer than the actual animation shows that it does. So a family member can come up to you like well after that animation is ended, and they'll get the insta kill. It'll be interesting to see what they mean by that. Maybe it's both, and that's why they said tuning. Perk rebalancing would be really, really nice. Personally, I hope that, like I said in the beginning of the video, I hope they fix the broken perks first before they worry about, rebalancing and making bad perks good. But rebalancing is very much welcomed because they're like 90% of the perks in the game are completely useless. So that'd be great. Party disbanding issues. And also on that rebalancing thing, there's a lot that I think are way too strong. I think fight or flight, or choose flight, I should say. Choose flight and shoot. The sprinting perk for family. Why am I forgetting the name? Those two are both way too strong, in my opinion. I think both could really use a nerf. So yeah, not only do I think that a lot of bad perks need to be buffed, I think there's a handful of really good perks that probably need to be nerfed. Party disbanding issues. I don't play in a party, so not an issue for me, but I'm glad that it's happening for those of you who do. And then issues with achievements on unlockables. That'll be great if that's fixed, obviously. And then issues with perks and ability, which, like we talked about, hopefully they fix some of the broken ones. So there you go. The 5th edition of the Muerto Times, the biggest one yet. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you like the changes, if you don't like any of the changes, let me know and more. Like it, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video.